Hello everybody, this is Aldrin Guerrero and welcome to Ukulele Underground University's Ukulele 101. I am your instructor for today. Aloha, how's it going? Behind the camera is Aaron Nakamura. Say whoa whoa. You are here now at week number 3. Today on Ukulele Underground University we're going to learn our first song. And this is the first song that we've ever done that I've ever taught on the internet. So here we go. We're going to learn Sunday morning. First song. First off, the G7 chord. We're going to learn a new chord today called the G7 chord. And that is this right here. Alright, so that's your G7 chord. Basically all it is your middle finger on the C string 2nd fret, pointer finger on the E string 1st fret, and your ring finger on the bottom string 2nd fret. So it's going to be 0, 2, 1, 2. Alright, so that's your G7 chord. It might be a little bit difficult, for some people to get a hang of this chord, but just like how we did with chords before, like see if you can do some chord switching over to the G7. So maybe you want to practice with the C chord, then switch to G7. But the thing with ukulele, you want your fingers to be bending a certain way, and you want to train them to be able to be comfortable with chord shapes and different types of things that your fingers are going to be doing as you progress through the ukulele. So it's very important to look at your chord very carefully. So for example, your C chord, if you're going to switch from the C chord to the G7 chord, you'll notice that your ring finger actually stays on the same string. And all it does is it scoots down one fret on the same string. Then you add your additional fingers in there to create the G7 chord. And a great way to check if you're playing your notes correctly is to play each string individually. If each individual string is heard without being muffled, because some people, if you're holding the chord correctly, you're not going to be able to hear the string. For example, if I'm holding the E string 1st fret incorrectly, it might sound something like this. And that's not what you want. You don't want that muffled noise. You want it to be straight up G7. Or maybe you're not holding your C string correctly. So you don't want that kind of sound. You don't want that muffled sound. You want every single note to be coming out. And you can do that with all your other chords. So for example, like D minor to G7, you're taking your pointer finger and you're just keeping it on there. Or even F and G7. And your middle finger is going down to the C string 2nd fret from the top string 2nd fret down. And your ring finger is going to hold the bottom string 2nd fret. See? So the minimal amount of movement is the best way to get from one chord to the other. So it's very important to take notice on which chords can switch easily to another chord. So there's always a simpler way or an easier way. I know there's some people that teach their G chord like this, with the pinky on the E string 3rd fret, so that they can get to the G7 a lot easier. And even to the C. So if you want to play it like that, see if you can experiment with with the chords that you've learned now. I know you've learned C, F, G, A minor, D minor, and now this G7. See if you can experiment with that. You have a couple weeks. Like I said, the fourth week isn't going to be until after I come back. So that's something that you can look at. You can look at all your chords and say, hey, how am I gonna do a transition from this chord to this chord? How am I gonna change, and how do I do that easier? How do I do that, without having to strain myself? Okay, so that's what I want you to do. I want you to take a look at all your chords and see what's a simpler way to get from chord to chord without with the least amount of movements on your left hand. Okay, so that can be something that you guys can work on. Now, the chords to Sunday morning,